Well, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. And trying out this chroma key thing today, and it seems like it's working okay. Let's see here. Right, looks like we're streaming. Everything is going live. And if you guys can hear me on any of the three services, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, please let me know and we can get going. I'll just kind of tweak this chroma key thing a little bit. It's pretty finicky, but it works pretty well. Okay. So let's see here. I'm still kind of waiting to... Lensk, I guess your name is. I'm streaming on YouTube as well. Yes, YouTube, ZBrush Live, Twitch, and also on Facebook. Yeah, and Geely, thank you very much for letting me know that you can hear me on Facebook. And so we're good on Facebook. Let's see if anybody from Twitch or from YouTube chimes in. And I don't know which one of these services works better, depending on where you are. I think maybe, in some areas it works better than others. Okay, so the good news is I'm kind of giving you guys a little bit more real estate around me so you can see more of the UI in ZBrush, and also makes this kind of easier for me to get set up. And basically we're working on this mech. This is the third episode, I believe. And you can see the previous episodes. If you are interested to know how we got here, you can always go to ZBrush Live, right? So here it is. And you can go to presenters and scroll down to me here somewhere. I think, let's see, this keeps moving around, but here I am. And you can see all of my streams down here. So here are the first two that we did, right? And then before that, so this is season, I think, 4. Before that, we had season 3, which was the spaceship that we made. And then before that, season 2, we made the spinner. And then season 1, which now is on the second page, we made this robot. So if you're interested in seeing more of these, they're all cataloged on ZBrush Live. They're also cataloged on YouTube. So here you can just go to the YouTube Pixologic channel, and you can just search for my name. So just look for Ara, and then they'll show up. And I think they might even have a channel for me. I'm not sure, but you can watch it that way on YouTube as well. And it is also captured on Twitch, and I don't know how that works, but it should be pretty straightforward as well. There's a Pixologic channel. You go there are videos, you look for my name, and you can find out more about it. So back to what we're doing. Let's see, we've got some people from Facebook chiming in, but let's see if we can get some people from YouTube and Twitch to let us know that we're a go, and then we can get started. All right, so let me see a couple of things here. All right, it seems like we are connected. I see all three services connected, so I don't know if nobody is hearing this or if the audio is not working. I'm kind of concerned a little bit. Somebody would have chimed in, at least from Twitch. So I'll wait a couple of seconds and then we can get going. All right, so this is kind of the state the mech is in. I didn't really have time to do too many tweaks to it, but I think we're going to go with this model. And just kind of a quick recap from last week, we have people in this thing, so we can see where the pilots are, and they are sitting inside like so. Okay, and we also have another image here that shows all of the pilots kind of standing up on top of each other, just to give myself an idea of how tall this thing is in real life, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 to 6 people tall. And yeah, so then, you got to kind of, when you're doing concept design, you got to think about, okay, well, how do these people get in, right? So there could either be some sort of a ladder that takes them all the way up, or they have to figure out a way to get there. And what I did one thing before when I was thinking about it, and I came up with this idea where you can have the mech, and this is not the one I want, but this is. So you can have the mech kind of, come down like this. And this is probably how it could get stored as well, like on top of maybe an ATV or something like that, and be driven around somewhere. Or, like there's 4 or 5 of them on a train kind of carriage. And also you can have them be carried by some sort of a flying device. So I haven't really decided yet, but I just basically used a quick method to get this to happen. And I will show you guys how I did that in just a minute. Looks like somebody from Facebook is commenting, but I still have not gotten anything from the other two services. So if you guys can chime in, that would be awesome. All right, so okay, so I'm reading Lansk's post here. When you create a 3D concept in ZBrush, do you use the same model as the final model after retopologizing, or do you create 2 different versions? One for concept. Okay, so that's a really, that's an awesome question. Okay, YouTube is good. We're good on YouTube, so I'm assuming Twitch is good too. Here we go. Twitch is working as well. All right, thank you very much, everybody, and we can just kind of just shoot forward. So the question was, do I do a concept one, and then do I do a final one and retopologize? And the answer is, it depends on how much time I have, right? So if they just want a concept, they just want a painting or overpainting or something like that, maybe I'll do something like this. Maybe I'll do some poses. And I did some kind of running poses. I think I showed you guys last time where I have it kind of in an action mode, right, like this. And so I do some action poses like this, and I showed you how to put them on a train or whatever. Not a train, but a terrain. And so after I do that, I basically can do a quick paint over, or just kind of, present it as a concept like this. And it all depends, right? The good news is, besides just a 2D concept, the good news about doing it this way is that people can see it from all the different angles, right? So that's kind of valuable, right? They can look at it from all angles. And even if I don't end up doing the final retopology or the FX work or the, all that stuff, the team has something to work from, which is kind of cool for them. They don't have to do any guesswork. They don't have to come back to me with like, what does the back look like? What does this look like? And what does that look like? It's all kind of done. And the other advantage also is, sometimes they ask me to go all the way and retopologize and do all the work. And sometimes I do the retopology just because I want to create a really cool render and I want some UVs and whatnot. So it all depends, right? And just to give you an idea of some of the previous work that I've done. So this is, if you go to my website, which is kermaco.com, so kermaco.com, and this is the only thing you got to remember because all of my social media stuff is on here. So, for example, here if I go to my mechs, all of these mechs, every single one of these is basically a 3D object, right? So the backdrops are photos, they're pictures, and in this one actually it's not a photo. This is a kind of a rockscape that I got from the Quixel library. So this is all 100% 3D, right? So there's absolutely no overpainting. I've done maybe some, a little bit of touch up in Photoshop, maybe done a few filters or whatnot, but basically this is all a 3D model. So, and as you can see, for this specific model, I've got a bunch of different views. So here you can kind of see some of the pieces that I have from Pixologic. This is all 3D, right? With just a little bit of overpainting in Photoshop. This is all 3D, right? So you don't really need to, here we go. This is all 3D as well. All 100% 3D models rendered. Even this is all 3D except the backdrop, right? The backdrop is a picture that comes with ZBrush, but I kind of juxtapose this thing like it's a 3D print or a sculpt that's on this table. Right, so, and sometimes I just do a render like this. I do a non-photorealistic render. So this is the same mech as this, right, as this one and as well as this one right here. So it's the exact same mech. It's just I've chosen to do a non-photorealistic renderer, and with this type of thing I don't really need to do a lot more of the detailed work. In this case I did, and it looks pretty neat, but I can kind of leave it in an earlier stage and it gets the point across. So Lansk, I hope that answers your question. If not, and if you have further questions, just let me know. I will stop every once in a while and answer questions. Okay, so here what we're going to do is do that same thing that we did earlier, where I want to create a version of this that is kind of laying down. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is let's go ahead and hide the people. We don't want to see the people, and we're just going to be working with this. I'm also going to take this off of perspective mode, so when I do select, it goes through. And I'm going to basically do the thing where you can use the select with this button over here, which basically says transpose all selected boxes. So this is also called pizza boxes by the folks that are paying attention. So you can kind of click on this that says I want to move everything. So now if I move, it will move everything. Now it didn't move one thing here, which are the arms. And I have a feeling that's because they are masked. So I'm going to go back to the arms, and yep, they are. So I'm going to clear that mask. And it's a good idea to do the clear mask. There's a way to just clear all the masks, and I'll show how to do that. So there's a Z plugin here called Z Repeat It, right? And this, I think, either comes with ZBrush or you can get it from the Pixologic website. It's a very useful one. And one of the ones that comes with it, so basically just repeats the same thing on all of the subtools, right? So here, there are all the different scripts. You can record some too, but what I want to do is I want to turn mask off. So let's see, does it have it here? Clear mask, right? So I just want to clear mask to all the visible subtools. So that just basically will go ahead, and here you can see it going through all the different items and clearing that mask. So now I know nothing is masked. So now if I go back to the pizza boxes and move, the whole thing is moving. So now when you have this mode activated, what you can do is when you select, right, so you see all the stuff that's kind of shaded this way, that means all that stuff is not going to move, right? So what I want to do is I want to invert that selection. So I just want to select the bottom parts like this, right? So now this is going to move, but the top part is going to stay put. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and rotate. So now I can move this gizmo and put it where the joint would be here on the leg, and just rotate that up, right? So it rotates the whole leg up. Right, so maybe it rotates up this way, maybe it goes up a little bit higher like this. Okay, cool. So now we've got that. And now I'm going to do the exact same trick, but I'm going to hold Alt down, and that basically will highlight this part. And then I can move this over to this part of the leg, like so, and rotate this over, like this, right? So then it basically does that. And there is, yeah, no, that's cool. And then lastly, I want to do the same thing. So again, Control-Shift to draw this out, and then if you click on Alt, it makes it red. So now this is not going to move, and then I can just move the gizmo down to here. And I think the angle of this is pretty good. I'm just going to angle it up a little bit more like this, right? And then straighten this out again, and now add this to my list of stuff that's not going to move, and then just move this foot down like so. And I can move it up, you know, at this point it doesn't really matter. It's not like, you know, it's not that strict of a thing that I need to worry about. Add this to that list and remove this from that list, and then bring that down, and this folds down either this way, which kind of I'm liking more, or it folds out this way. So I can choose either one, but I'm liking this a little bit more, so I'm just going to do this. Right, so there it is, and now I can just clear that selection and move the whole thing down, right? So then I basically have the mech sitting on the ground, right? I can continue to move this until it is sitting on the ground this way, okay? So it's a really nice way to kind of manipulate the mech in a way where it does the things that you want it to do. One thing that I should have done is I should have gotten this, created a copy of it. So I'll show you how to do that as well. It's the exact same process, but let me get this back to the state that it was in. So let me do all this. Guess I need to be on that specific part. Oh, the gun stayed up there. I don't know why. Maybe I forgot to select them, but easy enough. I can just turn this off like so and select them and move them down. Okay, so this would be the mech in its kind of sitting position. All right, so I guess the easiest thing to do instead of positioning these back out is just I'll go ahead and open the project that I had saved, and we can just pick it up from there. But basically, this is kind of the way to manipulate the model as a whole to get it into a different state. So the only thing I would do differently here, and I'm going to do that next just to show you, is if I want to do this whole thing but not destroy my initial mech that I had, what I would do as soon as this loads, I think we're almost there, and here we go. So what I would do here is I would, first of all, let me hide this guy and go over here. So what I would do is I would just show the mech itself, right? So without all the other subtools, like so, right? And what I would do is I would just go, and by the way, this is all very low poly geometry, and just to kind of show you what that means is if I go to my polyframe here and do a quick render, you can see that this is really, really simple topology. I think I've got an NPR filter here. Let me clear that out as well. So it's under render, BPR filters, and let's go ahead and go back to just the normal ZBrush filter, like so. And also let's make sure that, yeah, so you can see here when I do another render, like so, that this is really kind of low poly geometry. There's nothing really that sophisticated about it. It's just really a very kind of low poly model. Okay, so what I would do is if I were to do the same exact thing but not destroy the or move any of the parts here so that I don't have to individually move them back, all I can do here is, of course, this only works when you have, you know, I mean, it does work if you have more detailed geometry, but it works much better if you just do merge visible like this. And what that does for you is it just creates a whole other subtool, which is right here. That let me just make sure everything is unmasked. It just creates one subtool that has all the parts in it, and the same exact process works. So here I'll go back to this, move this up, turn the pizza boxes on, and again just do the selection of the parts that I want to move. I should turn, it helps when you have not perspective but polyframe on, because it actually shows you what you're selecting and what you're not selecting. So here we go back to W, and then you can just basically select the parts that you want and then move the parts that you don't care about. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of interesting lighting here. The lighting that comes with ZBrush is pretty good for these initial stages, but as we're starting to add details and whatnot, we want that we want a little bit of a better lighting situation. So I'm just going to go to light here, and I'm going to go ahead and load a texture. So these textures here are just HDRs that I imported in before, right? And to import them, you just click on import here and import the HDRs in. And I've got a hangar, I've got like a beach scenario and a studio, and this other kind of hangar looking thing. So let's just do that one first. So there it is. And now as I rotate around my object, it kind of puts it in this environment, okay? So, and if you don't want to see this in the background, and which is, you know, I mean, you could want to see it and you could work on it and you can blur it out too, which is kind of nice. So here you can kind of create a blurred version of it in the background like so. Maybe not that much. So there's like some depth of field, right? Or you can also generate, which is what I want to do. Actually, I'm going to go for the hangar. So I'm just going to go for this hanger like this. It's just an airplane hanger. And what I want to do here is rotate this thing maybe -105. Did I do that with the, let's see, I completely didn't do that right. Okay, so let's just go back to 0 here for this. And I think when I do it this way, -105, yep. So it's kind of lined up with this kind of nook over here. And what I want to do, and notice here I can just move my object, and this is in the background. If I want to zoom in on the background, I can do that as well. But what I want to do here is generate a light cap from this. And what that means is I want to light this mech with the lighting of this environment, okay? Because it's an HDR, it's got a lot of lighting information. And here you can choose the samples. Notice here that for 3, it's 8 lights. For 4, it's 16 lights. So let's just stick with 3. Let's see how that looks. So I'll just click on light caps. And what that will do is it will create this light cap basically that has the exact same lighting as this background. So if I turn this background off, I'm still looking at the mech as if it's in that lit environment, but I'm not seeing the background with it, right? And also, if you want, here I'm going to try and go for 4 samples. Let's see what that gives us. So that gives us a little bit better lighting. And again, if I go to my light cap here, you'll see that there's 16 different lights that were created from this model. And then what you can do is you can reduce the intensity of the main light, like so, and get the lighting from what's coming over there. And this looks a lot better when you have more detailed models, of course, but we'll get there. But I just want to get this lighting set up. And of course, you can always save this lighting and then bring it up later. And so this is what my specular will look like, and this is what my diffuse will look like. If the strength looks like it's too much, you can always go in and individually reduce the strength of each light. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn that background off for now, and just continue on with what we're doing. And then if we want to work with the lighting later on, we can do that. So let's do a BPR, see what that looks like. So you can kind of see here the shadows and stuff are all coming from the different lights. Here I'm going to reduce this intensity to 0.1 here. And I also want to make sure that this light is not casting a shadow, and that all the shadows and everything is being cast by this light cap. Let's do another BPR. And you will notice here that the BPR doesn't really show much detail right now because we don't really have a detailed model to work with at this point. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is start working on some of these parts. So I'm going to choose this part here. I might as well go back to my original that has all this parted out, which I think is this one, right? Yep. Okay, so here I've got this leg. I want to work on it. So I'm just going to select that, right? And solo it out, bring up the polyframe, which I think is Shift F, yep. And then I can see here that there's some polygroups, and I can continue to add different polygroups to it. But I think I started working on this one a little bit before. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to group the rest of the stuff. So suppose I want to group these sides differently, right? I've got symmetry on, so whatever I do on one side happens on the other side. So here I'm just going to polygroup a single poly, this one, and I can keep tapping on Alt until I get a color that is different enough. And I want to group these parts together. So I've got these parts as a different polygroup, and then let's add these bottom ones as a different group. So here, let's go for something completely different here. Nice red. Okay, this one. So I'm just grouping these together, and you'll see why I'm doing this in a minute. Basically, this is like selecting in another program, 3D program. It's kind of the same concept, but it's also like a selection set where the selection will stay after you're done. Okay, so that's good. And then let's maybe add these to that red polygroup. Okay, so now I'm done. And then what I want to do is I want to actually have a panel that looks like this green polygroup. And to do that, I just go to QMesh. And I want to do polygroup island. So it means just the polygroup here that's all connected. And then as I pull out, notice that it will do this, right? It will basically just add thickness to it right? And that could be something I want to do, but I actually want to create a completely different panel. And by the way, I can use panel loops to do this, but I'm just going to manually do it here because I want to do it this way. So if I hold Control down, it actually tears this piece out, right? So now I've got this piece that is outside, and let me turn double on so we can see inside. So I've got this piece that's kind of going over that leg part. And if I Q mesh this one more time, then I get a little bit of that thickness, like so. All right, but I'm not going to Q mesh it because I want all the thicknesses to be the same. So I'm going to use ZBrush's new capability. I have dynamic on already. I also have QGrid on, and I'll do this from scratch on another piece. But I'll go ahead and add some thickness this way. I think I added a bit too much thickness, so let's reduce that down. And sometimes the thickness gets wonky on the edges when I have QGrid on. So let me see if I can tweak that. Let's see if constant helps. Nope. And I can just maybe, yeah, reduce the coverage a bit. And so you can see that my edges are getting a little bit better. And here I can see what's going on. Maybe not have so many smooth subdivision levels. I'm just going to keep it at maybe one smooth subdivision level. And reduce the QGrid down to this. But notice here I'm affecting the whole model, and I don't want to do that. I just want to affect this kind of part that I worked with. So I'm going to go ahead and undo this all the way back to here, right? And what I want to do is I want to separate these pieces out. So to do that, I'm just going to go to here. I'm using my menus, and I talk about this in the previous videos. You'll see how I do it. The reason why I use my own menus is because I've grouped all the things that I use all the time into my own menu. So here you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 or 7 menus of my own, and I've mapped them to hotkeys. So if I want to do split similar, right, I can come here, I can expand split out and click on split similar parts. Or I can just go to my menu here and click on split similar parts, which will do the same thing, undoable operation, that's fine. And now I've got this as its own piece, and then I've got this as its own piece right here. So now I can go in and do that thickness, right? And and the reason why I'm doing this with the thickness is because I can do this for all the parts and get the same exact thickness. So I want a thickness about like maybe there, but let's see if I can reduce smooth subdivision to 1, and then let's see if I can get the QGrid to work better on those edges. Because they're getting really tweaky. Let's see here. So let's go to about... Yeah, I think there's a certain point after which the thickness is just saying, no, this isn't going to work. All right, so I can either do it that way, or I can Q mesh it. Again, I'm not really worried about it being too accurate right now. I'm just going to Q mesh it like this. And then let's go ahead and turn polyframe off. And I'm going to go ahead and see what I can do with QGrid here to get it to look a little bit better. So maybe QGrid of 1 or 2. And I'm using bevel here, but you can use chamfer if you want, if you kind of want more metallic kind of edges. And I'm not going to use thickness for now, and just keep tweaking this coverage until I get something that I like. Maybe something like this. Okay, and then I'm going. If I turn constant on, then it's going to be a constant thickness all around. But sometimes, again, I usually go back and forth and decide which one looks good. So now I've made these panels and I like them. So here's what it looks like. So I've got this kind of outside part, and the reason why I have this panel is because, again, this thing is going to be a, let's turn the pizza boxes off. This thing is going to be a war machine kind of thing. So it's going to, if it's facing something and something is shooting at it, then there's this kind of protective layer that will protect the mechanics of the leg inside. Okay, so I'm going to do kind of a similar thing to this piece, and for that I'll start from scratch. So let me just solo that out like so, and turn on polyframe. And here you can see, and this time it's not going to be the top part. Although, you know, I can do the top part as well, but I'm going to do the bottom part. So the first thing we're going to do is start grouping things. So polygroup again. And let's find a nice color that stands out from the rest. And I'm just going to polygroup all these pieces together like so. Okay, if you get something that says it's not symmetric, which I keep getting every now and again, what you can do is just mirror and weld. Again, that's on my menu, so that actually made a little bit of a difference, so that's good. And I can just keep popping these in like so. And one thing you want to do also is you can inadvertently add an edge loop, right? If your edge action is something different, right? So maybe go into edge and say do nothing, go into point and say do nothing, and that way you don't accidentally do anything if you touch a point or a edge. Okay, so I'm just basically grouping these together. I don't want this to be part of that group, so I'm going to group these in a different group like this. And again, I can pull panels out from here as well. All right, you guys are really quiet. That's good. It means you're either paying intent attention or you know all this stuff, which is also good. All right. So, okay, looks like I've kind of got some very similar colors here, so that could get confusing. So let me bring my Mech back up here. So what I want to do is I want to have a panel that is basically over here, so I can do that while the rest of the Mech is showing up. So maybe I can choose this green color for it. So it's going to be a panel that goes around this way, like so. This part here is probably going to be some sort of a joint, so I'm not really going to worry about that right now. And maybe go out this way and include these parts as well. Okay, and maybe, let me see. Maybe I will include these parts for now. Well, no, I think I'm not going to. So I'm just going to go for another polygroup for these parts. Okay, so now I think I have what I need. Maybe let's go. So now what I want to do is I want to color these the same color as this. So Shift grabs that. And now I've got that as well. And I'm just going to pull a panel that is kind of like this over here. All right, so now I've got that part done. Then I just basically go in and do the Q mesh, polygroup island. And then as I pull that out, hold Control, and that separates it out like so. All right, and then split to similar parts. All right, and this is kind of what I created, and then I can Q mesh it a little bit to add thickness. So now I have that protective piece there, right? So I've basically made these protective pieces. And I don't have to stick with the original design. I can go back before I Q meshed it, and I can go to the move brush here and tweak this to maybe look a little bit different than it is. So I don't want to mess with this area, but I want to pull this one down like so. Maybe not so much. And pull this one up like so. All right, and then let's look at it from the inside. I think it looks okay from the inside, but I maybe want to move this part in a bit. All right, and once I'm happy with it, then I just go ahead and Q mesh it out just to add a little bit of that thickness. Okay, something weird is happening. Yeah, let's try it again. I think I added a mask inadvertently, so here we go. Okay, and then after doing that, I will go in and do that dynamic. Okay, so it makes it into this kind of soft piece because only smooth subdivision is going on. But again, with QGrid of maybe 1 and some coverage, I can add a little bit of a chamfer to it as well. Okay, so let's turn polyframe off and let's bring everything back to see what that looks like. And it looks okay. I kind of need it to be a little bit thicker, so I can always undo back to this point when I did the Q mesh. And actually, it's a better idea to do the dynamic subdiv before I do the Q mesh. Right, so get something like this. That's good enough, and then do the Q mesh. All right, so now I've got some armor plating that's protecting the legs of the mech, and that's kind of an important thing to do. And then I got to start thinking about, okay, well, what do I want to do on the inside? So am I going to show some parts or whatever? You know, maybe this thing is going to be running, you know, ideally it'll be facing the enemy this way the whole time. So this is kind of protecting it from gunfire, but maybe I can do some other things with these side ones as well. For now, I think I'm good with that. All right, so then I want to use this top part as one piece. So probably it's going to start out as one piece, and then I'll part it out into its own pieces later on. But I'm just going to use the move brush here to tweak this part in. And here it looks like I need to use that plugin again. So again, Z repeat it. And this one should still be there. So let's just make sure that nothing is masked. So that's kind of going through all the different subtools, making sure nothing is masked. And we're good there. And so now I just want to select some pieces here and view them. So here I'm going to do that trick I did earlier, where I'm just going to go ahead and merge visible. Actually, it's probably going to be easier if I hide the legs, then I don't have to get rid of them later. So here I'm just going to hide the legs, and I will group all this stuff at some point. But for now, I think I'm okay with the kind of the organization that I have so far. Okay, let's see. I think this is the last one I need to hide. So this piece right here, I actually want to get one piece out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge visible into its own subtool, or into its own tool actually. And here it is. And I'm going to start working on this. And I did a little bit of this the first time, but I'm going to do some more of it now. So here, let's look at the topology. So now I've got, you know, it's pretty nice and simple. And I want to achieve this all with, I guess I could just leave it as different subtools. It's fine. But it's good that I don't have the legs to kind of, you know, bother me on it. And I can always work on this separately. So what I want to do here is I want to combine some of these pieces together. So I'm looking for what a good way would be to do that. So here you can see that there's this transition here that's really not working. So I need to figure out a better way to do that transition. I think I'm going to separate these out for now, because I can always join them up again. So I'm just going to split to parts and work on this individual piece here so it doesn't drag the rest. I could have masked the other piece, but it's fine. And I need to figure out, okay, how is this, you know, how's this transition happening from one of these pieces to the next, right? So this is looking a little bit better. They're aligned, and then I'll maybe, you know, I'll figure out a different way to combine these together, right? And then forgot to activate symmetry. That's fine. I'll just mirror and weld, so I get that both on both times. And it's always good to get that middle line as well. All right, let's see. There's a question from YouTube. Yeah, ZModeler is. I mean, you know, I'm pretty good in Maya, and I'm getting better in Blender for modeling, and ZModeler just gives me a level of freedom I don't get there. So I use Maya when I need to retopologize sometimes, or very few things that ZBrush still can't do. But for most of everything, I think I can do a lot with ZModeler. Especially with the new ability to extrude edges. I really, you know, in 2021 they added that capability, and it really makes a huge difference. That's one thing I used to have to go back to Maya quite a bit for, and I don't anymore. I just do it in here. And I think if you guys want to see what I'm talking about, I think I did it in the first episode of this series. All right, so here we go. All right, I think this is looking pretty good, and let's do a quick render here to see what's what, and that's looking really great. One thing that's really weird in my render is that the line does not show up when I do the BPR, and I wonder, here we go, I think I just need to do this one more time. I think something went wonky when I did that render BPR thing, so, or NPR, non-photorealistic filter. So let's go back to filters here, lightbox filter, and let's just choose the default again. Yeah, here we go, default, that's good. Okay, all the filters are off. That should show up. I don't know why it's not, but I'm not going to worry about it right now because I just kind of want to see how these are laying together. And again, I just want to make sure I look at this from all the different angles and make sure that I get kind of the design exactly the way I want. Now, some of these are probably going to be, you know, retopped together, but for now, I'm just going for the shape to see if I can get kind of the, you know, more of a, get into more of the secondary shapes of this. Right, and it's always good to maybe I'll bring the people in here to make sure that they're still fitting in what I have going on. So here I'm going to go back to this model, go to the pilots, and select them here like so. Again, copy. I've got that here in a hotkey, so I think it's further down. I usually use a kind of a higher resolution monitor. This is 1080p, but I usually you know, work on 4K. So these menus they get cut off here, but in my you know, everyday working sessions they show up. And I try to, you know, the hardest thing to do is to keep everything within that kind of screen space that you have, because you can't go horizontally. You can just go vertically. So that's why I have multiple menus. Otherwise, I'd have everything on one menu. All right, so here we go. And then what I want to do here is paste. Oh, I just got these guys here. I'll switch back to my initial one. And I want to paste the guys, the pilots, into this scene. Scroll this up again. Paste. All right, and they are sitting inside. I'm just going to get that on top here. And they're sitting inside like so. And so I want to make sure that whatever tweaking I'm doing here, that they're still within that kind of confines of where they need to be. Okay, so, right, I don't really need to, I can keep transparency on it, it doesn't matter. Okay, and then I'm just going to get this to conform to make sure to activate symmetry, mirror and weld, make sure both sides are the same. And here there's kind of a design element that I'm not liking, which is that this gets thicker and then thinner again. So I'm going to see if there's a way I can make that happen. So I'm going to use ZModeler again. And with ZModeler, I'm going to use the slide of vertex and just slide this vertex down. That's looking a hell of a lot better. And do the same thing here. So this looks like it's thicker. And then maybe move this one up. And see if I can move this one down like so. Right, that's kind of messing with the intersection. I'm going to turn transparency off so I can see it. Okay, so that's messing with the intersection over here. So I need to go back to this piece and see if I can move this piece so it still kind of works this way. And this is, you know, this is based on some research that I did. The angles and stuff are not arbitrary. I'm basically making this, you know, like I looked at all the different tanks and whatnot that are out, and they have a very specific type of a angle to them. So I'm kind of trying to do as much of that as I can to match that, because that makes them better to in combat. You know, it makes them, when something hits them, they bounce it off better. All right, so oops, what did I do there? Okay. And so I'm liking this kind of part here better, even though it's looking a little bit weird over here. I don't know why. Oh, that's why, because there are 2 points here. I can combine them, I guess, but I want to keep them separate. Slide this one down like maybe so. Okay, and I like working in low res like this because it gives me those hard surface edges in a very, very, you know, automatic way. I don't really have to work to get them. And let's tweak this front part here. And here all I'm doing is using the move brush, right? So just, you know, good old move brush, workhorse of a brush. Maybe give it a little bit of a snub nose here like this. Bring this down. I'm going to need transparency again. I'll probably create a hotkey for transparency because I go back and forth with it quite a bit. All right, so I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a water break here. So this would be a good time to ask any questions that you might have. Yeah, the ZModeler game, like I said, it's really a useful thing. You have to kind of force yourself to use it for a while. And initially you'll be like, oh, what am I doing here, or whatever. But in no time it becomes pretty straightforward. And one other thing that I haven't really done yet, but I will as time goes on, is I want to create some custom brushes with ZModeler. So with ZModeler, when you click on something and you hit, let me go to it first. When you hit spacebar, there are all these settings, and then there are all these settings for polygons, and then there are all these settings for edges, and there are all these settings for vertices, and they're all really good, right? They're all really useful, but sometimes you use ones more than others. So what you can do is you can just go in to ZModeler, pick the exact kind of options that you want here, and then what you can do is you can just save that brush. So you can just go here to the brush and just save it. So you can have like maybe a set of 5 or 6 ZModeler brushes that you use that are the ones that you use all the time. So for now, I think that's one of the things I'm actively planning on doing as kind of my growth arc in the next maybe maybe even during this season of episodes. And so I can have a few, and I can just go here into my quick brushes and have maybe 4 or 5 of them down over here. All right, so I'm going to take a quick kind of tea break, and if you guys have any questions, this would be a good time to ask. All right, so Lansk has a good question. Why don't you use classic method for your primary shapes where you create a sphere and then divide panels with the damn standard brush? I do that. I definitely do that sometimes. So I think that this is the question. So I'll just show how this works. So here, let me go in and choose, pop in a sphere. Maybe something like this, right? Whoa, what happened there? There it is. Okay, and what you want to do here is you're asking me, why don't I just start with this and start using damn standard brush? I do that sometimes. So if I were to use that method, first of all, start with a lower resolution sphere. By the way, this thing that I'm using over here is a brush that I made. So it's just basically an insert mesh brush, and I'll show it. Let me just do this, right? Oops, not that one. Where are you? Right, let me choose that brush. So it's just a brush I made like this, and you can, these are all the different pieces that are in it. And there's 2 versions of this brush that I made. There's one that's free, and you can get it on my Gumroad. So best way to do that is you just go to my Gumroad over here. So you just go to, all you need to do is remember my website right here. And then if you click on my Gumroad, I'll have this on ArtStation soon too. I'm moving my whole website to ArtStation. So there is my Gumroad. And on my Gumroad, there is this one, which basically is the Pro version. And this has 33 brushes. And then there's this one. Actually, this has 35 brushes. It's updated. I just didn't update the image. And this one has 17 brushes. So you can get this one, the 17 brush one, for free, right? You can just download that right now. And it's $0. If you want to leave a tip, thank you. If you don't want to leave a tip and you're strapped for cash, that's why I made this version. It has most of everything that you need. And then I also made, whoa, look at that. Okay, so you get all these different primitives, and then this one, which has the extra ones, has 35. It has the extra ones are basically planes that I added because of the new edge extrude feature in ZBrush. So this one has basically, to here is where the first brush has them. more or less, and then this one has some extra pieces like these pieces, which you might not need. So, and this one's only $2.50, so it's not really that expensive. While you're here, if you like the colors of my UI, you can grab that too, and I've got that available for free as well. So you guys can grab these if you want them. And that's basically what I'm doing here. Is I'm just basically going into this. And these are all the different pieces. Of course, I'm using the Pro version. And so I can just basically pick a sphere, a polysphere, or a plane, or whatever. And ZBrush has their own primitives brush too. So if you go to P here, they have their own, what do they call it? Maybe I should have it loaded. I think there's an IMM primitives brush. Yeah, there it is. So there's IMM primitives, and then there's IMM primitives empty, and then there's the ones that are closed. So you can use these two. For these, I basically have them polygrouped the way I like them, and also I've added some extra things. And of course, you can always, initialize stuff, primitives from here. You can always get these primitives this way. So there's primitives here. Or if you choose a poly mesh 3D, you can always go and initialize it down here as well, where you have the cube and the sphere and all that stuff and the resolution. So a lot of ways to get to the same goal, but coming back to Lance's question of like, can I work this way? And the answer is sure. So here I'm just basically using the clip curve brush, and I can just go in here and I'll just do something really quick where I'm just basically maybe making that same hull that I'm working on, like so, like so, like so. Let's turn symmetry on here. Yes, I'm looking at it from the wrong angle. Let's just start over. Okay, so let's make sure I'm looking at it from the front, side, pop this out like this. Do the bottom, maybe straight, and then go over here, look at it from the top. Do this, right? So I get this kind of shape, and then if I want to get some bevels on the edges, I can just kind of line that edge up like so. I know it's going to mirror on the other side, so I don't really care. So maybe do an edge like this. So now I've got that. But notice here I've got a lot of geometry that's kind of interfering with it. So it's kind of, more of a headache. But, if you want to work this way, you can. And then there's this, right? So now that I'm done with this, I'll just go ahead and subdivide it a few times. And then I'll just go ahead and use the Damien standard brush. Let me turn polyframe off. And I can just go in and start carving, cut lines or whatever on here. Where is my dry side? Let's see, let me unify this thing. All right, something is really weird with this subtool. All right, where are you? Is it too big? Is it too small? Where did it go? Let's just undo back. Here it is. Let's redo until we get to where we were. All right, and then maybe divide it a few more times. And so with Damien standard, and I don't know, is the intensity not enough? What's going on? Yeah, something is weird with the scaling of this, so I'm going to try and unify it one more time. And now it's nowhere to be found. Yeah, I don't know what's happening here. Weird glitch. All right, I'm sure it never happens to anybody else. All right, so here we go. Here we are, and maybe I'll just resize it manually. See if that does any better. Yeah, for some reason I can't get the brush to register. Do I need more divisions? No. Like I don't get anything happening on here at all. All right. Is it too small? Is it too big? I don't know. Well, one way to find out is I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to, I don't really need C12 here. I can go back to maybe 10 or 8. Okay, I'm just going to copy this and pop it into what I've got going on here. That's what's going on. The scale is just really different. And paste it. All right, so there it is. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. Okay, and then go back here and unify it in here. I think we should be okay now. Nope, still not okay. All right. Maybe it has something to do with that background that I had, or the lighting. I don't know. It's not even showing up over here. Yeah, ZBrush is getting wonky. Maybe it'll crash. Yeah, it could be something with the scale, or it is rotating. I mean, this is really acting up. But let me maybe turn transparency off. Where's the floor? Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna do a quick save on this, and I'm gonna restart ZBrush just to get a fresh start. I was using ZBrush for a while before this thing came up. All right, so best ever is there. Hello, sir, with the hearts. Hey, how's it going? Happy Valentine's Day. So Pixologic asked me to do something with hearts, with kind of the Valentine's theme, and I might just do something towards the end of the stream, just kind of something fun for Valentine's Day. But I want to stick to what we got going on for now. Okay, so that's saved. Let's close this. And start it up again. So this would be a great time to ask questions and for me to get another swig of tea. All right, so here we go, starting ZBrush over. I think sometimes what happens, I mean, if I were to kind of, guess, I would say that what happened was that ZBrush, the scale of that new piece that I added was completely different than the scale of this thing. Should I show you guys this thing? Yeah, maybe I'll do that first. Might as well, since we're doing this, and then I'll load the other piece. I don't know if this is a good idea, but I'll go ahead and do it. One of the things I'm working on that I will be making available for sale soon is a set of tires, right? So, I make cars every now and again. So what I did was make a bunch of tires. All right, so this is doing its thing here. And I'll go ahead and turn these on like so. Let's see, is there a thing that shows all of them? I think it should be Alt-click this. Oh, yeah, it's Shift-click. All right, here we go. All right, so now I'm showing all of these different tires here. I think I'm on solo. I should be. I'm not on solo. All right. And I don't want to see any of these things down here because these are still in progress. But and maybe one day I'll do some of these as well. But let me just go to one of those tires again. We got kind of like the scale disparage thing going on here. And let me hide this first one. Okay, so here we go. All right, and let me expose these out so you can see all the tires. Right, so it's taking a minute. Here we go. So I'm making all of these tires in ZBrush. And I'm going to make them available for sale. These are all going to be sub-D'd, all going to be UV'd, so you can use them in your projects. So let me turn perspective on. They look better that way. Right, so all of these tires I'm working on, and there actually are a few more. So keep an eye out for those. If you are making cars, or if you need to make tires or just use tires, you can just grab one of these and use them. All right, so enough of a tangent there. Let's go back to the subject at hand. All right. So Best Ever is asking me what studio I work at. I don't work at any studio. I am freelance. I work for a bunch of people now and then if they need me. But I don't work in one specific studio. And I kind of like it that way for now, but we'll see how things go. Work has been really slow during the pandemic. I should mention that as well. But things are looking up. So hopefully we'll have the vaccine soon and we'll be set. All right, looks like even after loading this thing, we still have that same issue. And I don't know. I'm going to try doing something here real quick. I'm just going to merge all these together. Before I do that, let me just go to the pilots and make them all one poly group so I can separate them out easily. And I'm just going to merge all these together. So we might be coming out with a solution to this problem here. Okay, so now I've got all these merged together, and I'm going to unify them all as one group. All right, let's see if that worked. And one other thing I'm going to try here, I'm basically just shooting in the dark on this. One other thing I'm going to try is copying it and going to a whole new mesh, 3D, and clicking on paste and delete this. Okay, I don't have solo on, so this should just show up, but somehow it's deciding not to. All right, a really interesting bit of a problem here. So the other stuff, yeah, I don't get anything at all. Yep, nothing is showing up. All right, what if I just completely delete this? No, I don't want to delete. Well, I have it saved. I'm going to delete this piece right here. I'm not even getting the gizmo. It's really, really strange. What if I do this? Let me try something else here. Document and zoom. Yeah, this is the whole entire document. So where is everybody? Do I have, maybe that background thing is an issue. Let's see if that is the problem. So let me go back to lighting here, background on. All right, so the background is there, right? So that's working. All right, off. Is it just really small? Yeah, I don't think this is the issue. What about light caps? Let's go ahead and delete all those light caps. I can recreate this very easily, so I'm just going to delete all these lights. Okay, and just take this to 0.85 and see if that helps. No, that's not it either. All right. Let's see what other thing I can come up with here. Let me just go to polyframe. Yeah, just go to this. Like, why is this not coming up? That's so weird. Yeah, I don't even get a gizmo. Well, well, well. All right, so I guess the thing to do here is I'm going to save this as a ZTL and reopen it. So first, let me just go back to document size here. Document, no, let's see if this works. Yeah, this, I don't know why I didn't, yeah, here we go. I just figured it out. All right. This is what I should have done before. Switch color. Still thinks it's dark here with the light. So I'm going to go ahead and do this thing all over again. Texture. And pick, oh, I don't have the, it's fine. I'll just import it again. The HDR. Sometimes things work out and sometimes you have to solve a problem. And a lot of times when I am working somewhere, that's what I'm doing most of the time is problem solving. So it's always good to kind of have an idea of what's going on and be able to solve the problem as you're working on it. Okay, so here's the hanger again. Let's pick it. And let's generate the light cap from it. And all right, so there's the star again. And, oh, the material is this, yeah. Somewhere along the way, I went to a flat material. All right, so we're very close to being done here. All right, so if that's working, then these should work as well. Yep, we're back on track. All right, so now what I want to do, again, where I was when we were talking about this, is I was trying to show how I would do this, you know, using the damn standard brush or whatever. Again, that's kind of another workflow, and it works out. Sometimes I use that as well. So here I'm just going to smooth out this area like so. And again, it's a good idea to, I didn't save the previous subdivision, so I can regenerate them by going to reconstruct. Here I'm back down to the, turn symmetry on. I'm back down to the original scale here, and then I can just go up in subdivision levels like so. And suppose I'm just doing something like this, and again, I can always use the clip curve to kind of add facets. So I'm adding kind of more hard surfacey looking facets to my object. Let me turn polyframe off here. And you can see I'm getting some jagged edges, but if I go up in subdivision levels, oops, I don't want to do that. If I go up in subdivision levels, they become better, and I can always kind of soften them up, like so. And then if I go to the Damien standard brush, I can go ahead and start kind of carving into this as well. Like if I want to have, you know, let's say I want to have some lights here, like so. So I can just go in here and start kind of sculpting that. Maybe add another subdivision level. Start sculpting that like so, and adding, you know, I can do it this way as well. And there are a lot of artists that do this, and I do it sometimes too. And maybe after I get the kind of the primary shapes done, I can go in and start kind of doing the same thing here. So you can go in, and with the Damien standard brush here, let's say the lights kind of go all the way around this way, so you can just kind of go in. And then another brush I like to use with this is H polish, and just polish that down, and I can get kind of some planar, you know, I can get some more kind of hard surfacey planar looking stuff. And you know, I can always detail it out. So here are some of Mike Nash's brushes that I bought on Gumroad a while back, and really kind of, you know, so I can add some details like this as well, and then just kind of continue to work on it. So yeah, I definitely can use this method as well. But Landscape, that's exactly what I did. I created a new document, and also popped out of, I guess somehow I popped into 2D mode, and also somehow I turned on the, for my material, I turned on flat color. I don't know how any of that happened, but you know, again, it's one of those things where you just go, okay, you know, I've got a problem, I got to deal with it, and I got to figure it out. So here you can see I'm getting some cool looking hard surface edges, again, just by using the clip curve and by using Damien standard to get more defined lines. And of course you can use booleans as well. There's 100 different ways of getting some amazing results in ZBrush. Okay, so that's one way to do it, and then you can retopo this if you want to, or just, you know, continue to work on it. I know that there are a couple of artists that I know that just do things this way. Right, so let's say this is like some sort of a chest piece or whatever, and they can just kind of go in and start carving up the model this way. And what's really nice about this also is you can always kind of go down in subdivision level, and maybe not so much, and go to the move brush and go, okay, well, I wanted this to be wider like this. And so you can kind of combine hard surface with kind of organic and get some more interesting looking shapes, and then continue to go up and down in subdivision levels to get what you want. So hopefully that answers your question. And like I said, it's just a preference. I like working in ZModeler because it's you know, it gives me what I really want. So let's split these back out, split to parts, okay, and start working on them. So yeah, the reason why I wanted to do that with the pilots is now I need to group these pilots together. So they're in the same subtool. I can turn them on and off in one shot. So there's that guy, merge down. Merge down like, yeah, I should have done a group split, but I didn't know if the pieces were separate. So I'll just turn all these guys back on. Looks like I got a couple of little pieces here that I don't want. I don't know if they're from the palette or whatever. So I'm just going to delete these pieces before I continue. Okay, so here we go. All right, so we're back to where we were when we diverted. Okay, so any other questions before I continue on? So yeah, you can do the sphere, and you can do sculpting as well with the with a couple of different three different brushes. You can go about it that way too. I think that gives you a different level of freedom, and sometimes I use that method as well. But I like to use ZModeler because that way I can just establish the planes and work on the different pieces that way. Hope that answers your question. Let's activate the symmetry here. I think, is there one? I was just going to say I want to activate the symmetry for everybody, but I'm not going to do that right now. But I wonder if there's with the Z repeat it, if there is one that ships with ZBrush. If not, I can always make one myself. Actually, it'll be a good idea to do that so you guys can see. So let's say what I want to do is I want to, every tool I'm going to, initially I forget to activate symmetry, and then I have to go in and activate the symmetry, turn it on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to record a macro to do that for me. So I'm going to record new, right? So it's recording now, and I just go to, I can do it from my menu, or I can do it from, I think it's under, where is transform and activate symmetry. So it's on. Oh man. I'm going to end the record, escape, not do this, no. Okay, so I'm going to do this over again, but I'm going to start out with symmetry not being active, right? And also act's not active. Okay, so I have nothing done here, and then I go click on record new. I go to transform, activate symmetry and X, right? Make sure X is on, and then end the recording. And then it's called symmetry. It's called X symmetry on. Okay, and that's it. So now I've got that. Okay, no. All right, so now I've got this X symmetry on, and I can just say, okay, what I want to do here is I want to just do it for every visible tool. So it just goes through and does every single one. So now if I go to any other one of these tools, symmetry is on automatically, right? So I don't have to go in and remember to do it every time. All right, so going back to here, this looks like I need to do a mirror and weld real quick. Okay, so here we go. All right, so yeah, just kind of doing some of the simple shapes here, and getting this to work like so. All right, so I'm going to ask you guys a question at this point. I can, what time is it? So we got about 45 minutes to go. I can continue working on this, or I can do a Halloween heart that you can 3D print or whatever. What do you guys want me to do? Avi is asking, is there a way to do glass on ZBrush? So, good question. There is a way to do glass. So here I'm going to go ahead and bring in the sphere again. This is their sphere, right? Yeah, no. So let me just initialize it as my sphere here. Blah, blah, blah. Da, da, da. Q, A, go to this brush, W, and choose like a really in-depth sphere like this, right? Okay, and then I'm going to choose another one. I'm going to append one of these guys, and let's put one of these kind of interesting looking spheres in here, like so. All right, so I guess, all right, let's see, Mech forward goods. Okay, so renders FX wants the Mech. Yeah, that's 2, 3. Oh, well, that's really rude. I'm the man. You're not the man if you're that rude. maybe you should go to bed. Okay, and I will kick you if you keep this up. All right, so what you're doing here is, if I want this to be transparent, so there's transparency. So let's say I want to see the star, which is in here, right? So and I'll just kind of make it bigger. So there's a star and it's inside of the sphere. If I want to see that star, I'll go to the sphere here, all right? And I will say, okay, what I want to do is I want to make this thing, under display properties, I want to make this thing, go to BPR settings and turn on BPR transparent settings. And it asks me about this thing, I'll say yes. So now I've got that transparent. And now if I go ahead and render this, you will see that the sphere renders as transparent and the star inside does not look transparent. And you can do different things here. You can change the transparency by BPR visibility, and you can do a few tweaks. So that's one way you can do transparency. Another thing you can also do, and I haven't done this for a while, so I need to remember how to do it. Let's turn the background on again. Oops, not that. But let's go to lighting again, turn that lighting on. And so here in the lighting, there is an option somewhere that says I want to reflect. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the light caps here. And now you can see that it is reflecting on that surface. Let me subdivide this a few more times. And you can see that that background is reflecting on that surface. And now if I go and do a BPR render, not only will it have the glass, but it will also have that reflection. So that makes it look a little bit better. I mean, it's not, try this one more time. It's not perfect, but it does give you kind of a better sense of the reflections of the environment around you. I don't know why the black colors are not coming through well. I think maybe if I play with the exposure a bit and regenerate this light cap, maybe I will get better results. So yeah, that kind of looks like it's glass, right? So you know, it's kind of a trick to do. It's not something I would use to do glass, but you know, if I'm in a pinch and I need to do it, I can do it in here. I usually let me turn that light cap off. I usually, if I'm going to render glass, I'll just go to Keyshot and do it in there. All right. Okay, so hopefully that answered that question. All right, and let's go to, I can't believe rude people. Like, why don't you put your name on there? You know, I'm the man. Fucking moron, sorry. All right, so here I will go ahead and start continuing on this. Back in this mode, go to here. So now I'm just kind of working on this part right here and trying to figure out how that fits in with the rest. All right, so here I've got this little bit of a notch here, which I don't know if I want to keep that notch. I like what's going on here, but I'm not sure if I want to keep this notch going on. So let's go ahead and do this over here like so. Is it masked? Nope. Okay, so one thing that's happening here is I'm trying to move this point inside and it doesn't move, and that's because I don't have ghost on. So when I turn ghost mode on, I can do it this way. All right. All right, so I'm just tucking that part in. Like I said, I need to have a hotkey that takes me back and forth between transparency and not transparency. And yeah, let me do a mirror and weld on this so I get that middle line. And what I mean by that is this line right here. And push this over. Wouldn't it be beautiful, like if one day there is this technology that can find people, like, you know, like that guy that said, you know, the I'm the man guy. Like, wouldn't it be great if, like, you know, I could just pull up a browser and use a satellite photo to just kind of go and find him where he is, like connect to his webcam and see him, see who he is, and just let the world know what kind of person that person is. Like, wouldn't that be great if, like, all these internet commentators would kind of somehow not be anonymous anymore? And, you know, like, I wouldn't want it to do that with somebody who wants to be anonymous. I mean, everybody can remain anonymous, but if somebody's, you know, not doing the right thing, it'd be great to know who they are. All right. Cool. So any questions so far with everything that's going on? Everybody on track? All right. I mean, I understand certain things need to be the way they are, but on the other hand, I think there is, oh, look at him. He's still on. All right. Always that one person that's going to ruin it for everybody. All right. This is getting to where I want it to be, more or less. And I'm kind of, you know, I kind of like this notch over here, but I kind of don't. Oh, really? Renders effects? There's one in every, yeah. Next, I'm going to talk to Pixologic to see if there's a way I can kick them. It'll be really fun to do that. No, I'm not really, you know, I'm not really worried about that. I'm worried for you guys because, you know, you are spending your time here and you deserve to get something good and not have stupid hecklers. Or maybe that's what I should do, is talk to some of my comedian friends and they can help me deal with hecklers. All right, so this piece has kind of got a lot of detail. So I don't really need all these pieces on the inside. I'm not really going to have an inside shot. I might do a turret here where we can see a little bit of the inside. And I'm going to use a part that I had for my mech before. But you know, I mean, it's kind of tempting to do the whole thing inside and kind of have like some panels open up. But I don't know if we're going to have time, so I'm kind of not going to do that. But one day I will make a mech where I will actually have the inside parts showing. All right, so I think this is good so far. And what I want to do now is I want to combine all this into one shape. So the way to do that is I'm just going to go ahead and do a merge visible. And that's going to give me a subtool somewhere here that is just that merged piece. And so what I want to do here is I want to think about what parts of this are going to be together and what parts are going to be separate. Actually, I'm not going to do that just yet. All right, let's see here. Where was I? So now I think I'm going to start adding some detail to this. So a good thing to do is to start beveling edges. So here I'll go back to ZModeler and go to bevel. Let's add a bevel right here. So see how the bevel is going all the way around? I don't want it to go all the way around. So let's see here. Single row, that's good. Edge loop complete, edge loop partial. Let's see if that works. Nope. So the best way to do that is I'm just going to go ahead and add some edge loops. like so. Let's turn polyframe on so I can see them, and add one over here. And I'm just going to mask these guys out. Mask poly loop, this one, and this one. And now I can just split, or not insert, but bevel. I guess I can't yet. Let's try and see if this works. Here we go. This is exactly what I want. All right, so add that bevel over here like so. And let's see what that looks like. So that kind of gives me a little bit more of exactly what I'm looking for. And I don't know if I want, let's see what that looks like if I push this in. And again, here I'm trying to match these as well as I can, but eventually I'm probably just going to create one piece that does all this, or I'm going to zero mesh it and retopologize it or something like that. But right now, this is giving me what I want. I'm going to do the exact same thing to this piece right here. Looks like I went in too much with that. So yeah, I wanted to intersect this one piece. All right. Yeah, I wonder how pros never use 3D planes to model, instead go in with pure creativity. So what you mean by planes is, you mean like the floor, like this? Right, so ZBrush has a way to do that. You can turn on X, Y, and Z planes, so you can have kind of the planes like that if you want to. And don't worry about them kind of not being centered. You can center them. Is that what you meant? Like just have kind of the grid like this, and then when you rotate, you have this grid and whatnot. Is that what you were referring to, Avi? Because yeah, well, with you could model that way with the floor on or not. But basically, the way I think about it is, I think about it as just, like this was an object in my hand, and I'm just rotating around and tweaking it. I want to give that a try. And again, one of the things that I should mention to everybody here is that this doesn't happen overnight. You have to spend the time and learn what's going on. So, I highly recommend, start a project. I'm thinking of starting a Discord channel or something like that where you can post in your progress and just start something, and then, start working on it little by little, and then you get better and better over time. Also, another thing I should mention is that 3D comes naturally to me, like I think in this way, so I don't really I shouldn't say that this is something that everybody can do, because like for example, I don't use a Cintiq, I use a Wacom tablet, and I can work on it just fine. But I know a lot of really amazing artists that I know, they need the Cintiq, they need that kind of technology to be able to work on a subject. So yeah, I mean, I'm lucky because I inherently think in 3D. Like this comes very natural to me. Even when I'm drawing or painting, I usually construct something in 3 dimensions. I don't just outline edges. And I know a lot of artists just basically work on outlines. And and I don't mean to say one thing is better than the other. I'm just saying that everybody has their gifts. And sometimes they're good at something and not in others. But as long as you can get a result, then that's good. But yeah, there's a lot of ZBrush artists, even the streamers on Pixologic. Like if you watch some of the other streams, everybody works in a different way. And it's always refreshing to see how somebody else works. And sometimes it works for you too. So you borrow kind of a new method of working. And sometimes And sometimes, you know, you go, okay, well, that's kind of cool, but that's not how I like to work. That's not how I get productive. That's not how I'm fast and whatnot. All right, so, oh, you mean adding references? You can do that as well. Yeah, you can. So you can add references as well. So in addition to when you have those floor planes, you can actually add images to that. So, but here I'm not really going for something that's already made. So I don't really need to do that, but there's different ways of doing it. One way of doing it is just by right-clicking on here. Do that with the mouse. And you can just use an image here, like let's say, I'm just going to use an arbitrary image, like let's say this guy, right? So now I've got this guy, and as I'm moving this around, you can see that it's moving in addition to that. So that's kind of a quick and dirty way to do a reference plane. And then you can also, I think, under document, when you have the floor, where is that? Is it under document or is it under draw? I'm sorry, it's under draw, where you have the floor here. You can actually open a grid file and add that. And I think there's ways you can add images as well. And then there's also, you can also use Spotlight to do images as well. So there's ways you can put an image behind an object. And you know, when if like some customer wants me to do something that already exists or model something that already exists, and they have orthos for me, or if their concept designers have drawn the orthos, I can just pop those in the back and kind of match them in here as well, just as easily. But I kind of never have had to do that yet. All right, so I'm getting a little bit better surfaces here. I'm getting a little bit more kind of into the secondary shapes. And what I want to do now is just, let's go ahead and, again, create a merged version of this. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Split to parts. What I want to do is merge visible. And go to that merged object here. And I'm going to subdivide this a few times, right? So you can see here that the subdivisions are softening it up, and that's not what I want, right? So eventually when this thing comes back, wow, 58 million. Oh, you know why? It's because the pilots are in there. So let me get the pilots out of there first. Do this, create a little bit of a window here, invert that, oops. So yeah, see the pilots are subdividing as well, which is not what I wanted to do. So let me delete this guy and go back to what I had, hide the pilots, and then do the merge visible, and go to here. Right, and this does not have the pilots in it, right? I mean, even though the name is merge pilots, because that was the first subtool. Now I can subdivide this, and notice that when I subdivide, it just creates the soft version as a default. So I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to subdivide, but I want to keep the hard edges. So to do that, you just go into divide and turn the smooth off, and then you can just keep subdividing. So here I'm going to get to about 6. Let's see what that looks like. So that's looking good. Maybe do one more subdivide. More. So now I've got that exact same shape, but I've got a lot of geometry for it, right? And here, what I can do is I can subdivide the lower subdivision levels. I can go to higher, you know, I can keep this and then I can start smoothing after that. And when I do that, I get these kind of softer edges. I don't get those kind of sharp angles that I usually get. And here I can just always kind of hit it a little bit with the smooth brush. And soften any edges that I don't want. So now I've got a really cool looking hard surface piece. And what I can do here is I can start kit bashing some surface elements onto it. So here, for example, like just a really simple thing is I can go in and use Mark's, I can use Mike Nash's bits here. Like for example, if I want to, let's choose this guy right here. Like if I want to add, like let's say a notch over here, right? I can do it. Maybe I need one more subdivision level to get that level of detail. So now I'm basically doing minor work. So here, that kind of pokes it out, or I can invert it by going that way. So now I'm adding little details. And let's say I want to add one of those details somewhere else. Maybe like over here. Right, so now I'm basically adding little details like this that I want. And here I can also go in, we do mirror and weld here. So, oh, it says multiple subdivision levels. There's a way to do the mirror and weld if you have subdivision levels, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. But what I was going to say is that you can also, at this point, switch to the Damien standard brush and do other kind of details. Like, let's say you want to do something here where you want to put a dent or something like that. You can go in and actually do that this way. Or you can go back to any, you know, a brush like, here, let me turn symmetry on. You can go to a brush like a layer brush, like so. And you can choose an alpha. I don't know if there's anything here that might work. Let's see. This one might work. And like you can just, and let me do a drag rectangle on this. And you can also add details like this. This is definitely not the one you want. So let me just go into Lightbox and Alpha and see if I have some, there's some cracks right here. Choose that one. All right. And just pop those on. Going inwards, subtract. Right, so you can add damage and cracks like that as well. So there's different ways of moving forward. Let's see, how are we doing on time? We're at 8:38, so we have a little bit more time left. So yeah, I mean, you can start detailing it out, but basically you want to get to some sort of a, you know, a primary shape that you're happy with, and then you can continue on from there. So I'm just going to delete this one. I just divided it a few times, just kind of see how it is looking. It's always good to kind of look at your planes and see if they're working. Like for example, here I see that this is not working this way, right? So I need to straighten these out, or get something, or either bring this guy in, this kind of corner, and I don't know if you can see it, but either bring this corner in, or this corner out. And I can do this since I do have the subdivision levels. I can always go down to level 1, and I can go to the move brush and move these around like so, and then go back up in subdivision levels and see how that works. And this is looking a little bit better. But see, if I work on it here, it's going to create all these kind of wonky things. So I always can go back down in subdivision level and choose kind of one that works good for me. And then I want this to be planar. So I'll drop one of these guys on it. And I want this to be planar as well. So I'll drop one of these guys on it as well. Like so. And then I can just go up in subdivision levels and see what that looks like. Okay, so here we go. Let's go back down in levels. So another thing also is here, if I want to work just on this piece, right? So this is all one subtool right now. But if I want to kind of raise this one up or play around with this one piece, I can still do it. And the way that that works is I'll go to mask, and I'll mask this entire island like so. Invert that mask, right? And then now I can just work on this one piece. So I'm trying to see if this will look better if this part is flush. And I kind of like it. So now my design is going more into kind of secondary forms and making those work. And seeing if I can pop out this angle from below here a little bit more. Let's turn transparency on and ghost on. So see, transparency doesn't work now because because all this is just one piece, right? So if I were to want to get into that one part, I'll just say split mask parts. All right, so now transparency will work, and then I can just move this part out like so, see if that works better. All right. Again, I forgot to turn ghost on, so let's do that. And now I'm just looking at this kind of plane change right here. I'm trying to see if that works out. All right, so that's all good. Now I got to start thinking about other things too, like, all right, well, how do the people get into this thing? And what I'm thinking is there's like some sort of a hatch down here. So when the mech is in this state, let me see if I can go back to my original one. So here it is, and let's turn everything back on. So when the mech is in this state, and I'll bring the people back up so we can see. Right, I'm going to hide these top parts. I don't need to see them. All right, so here, if we have this kind of situation right here, I can just move the either the mech or the people to the mech. I'll just move the mech over, right? So this is how high it is, right? So I can say, okay, well, it's about 2 people high. And so people can get in this way. So maybe there's a ladder or something that comes down, and then they can climb in and sit inside the mech, right? So I gotta consider, okay, where's that hatch gonna go in the back? Do I want it to be bottom? Like, do I want to open up the bottom and they go in through there? Do I want to open up the back so that they could go in, let's say this way, so the ladder comes down this way and then they just go up into it? So all those are things that, you know, as a concept designer, you have to take into consideration, because if this is in a game or a movie or something like that, people might want to go in and out of it. So you got to kind of allow for that type of articulation as well. All right, let's see if there are any more questions. Okay, so Rizwanmation is asking, what am I sculpting? So this is a mech. It's a mechanical vehicle that walks on 2 legs, something like this. Something like this, where basically, you know, like this mech, for example, here walks on 2 legs, but also the legs open up and it can walk on 4 legs, right? So it's just like I kind of think of it as a tank, but with legs that can go over all sorts of terrain, like this, for example. So if it's in a kind of a non-flat area, it can run and climb and do all sorts of things like, you know, a person can. So hopefully that answers that question. So I'm not going to, I probably won't Dynamesh. I mean, I'm a Dynamesh some pieces, but I'm probably eventually not going to Dynamesh this at all. I'm probably just going to do this entirely with subdivisions. Okay, and then so the question is, can ZBrush do hull explosion viewing inside the cockpit? Yeah, it can. Till the nose is ground and then windshield pops up, fighter jet style. Yeah, that might be an idea too. So see, that's great. So some people are starting to think of ideas, and that's kind of part of concept design, is you have to think of ideas and things that would look cool. You know, it'll be cool that if this was like a glass piece over here, if it opened up and then the ladder came out this way and then people climbed up the ladder into the mech that way. So those are all considerations. Those are all things that, you know, you have to kind of throw around. Usually you get some sort of guidance when you start out about how the director or art director or whoever it is wants things to happen. I've seen all sorts of mechs have different ways of getting the people in and out of them. So yeah, I mean that's you're on the right track. Tilting the nose forward is a good idea, right? So that's definitely something that you could do. Yeah. So the other question is exploding the hull. All right, so let's do that. So let me go back to this guy right here and duplicate. Or wait a minute, did I separate it out? I did separate it out. Where is the one that has? Here we go. Right. So this one's two different pieces, right? And suppose I want to pop out the top part of this. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to delete all the higher subdivision levels. So this is kind of the piece that we have. And suppose I want this top part to pop off, right? So the best way to do it is go in here. I'm going to solo this out for now, right? So let's say I want this top part to open up, right? Like let's say this is going to be a collectible toy or something like that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in here and go to polygroup. And I'm going to polygroup. I can actually do this really kind of, I'll just do it this way. So this is one polygroup right here. And then if I hit Control Shift and oops, click on that polygroup, let me do this. So, right, if I Control Shift and click on that polygroup, it just separates that polygroup up, right? So now the rest of it is going to be a different polygroup. Let me get to my selection brush here, like so, and I'll group all these together. And let me turn double on so you can see that. So here I can see inside this part, right? And the rest of it, I guess the bottom part got grouped with that. I didn't want that to happen, so no worries, easy enough to fix. All right, so now there's the inside part, and then there's this part. And what I want to do is I want to be able to pop this entire panel off. So it's pretty easy to do. All you do is just select it like this, and then split, hidden. So now I've got these two parts as separate parts, like so. Let me bring these up. So I've got this top part as one piece, and I've got this bottom part as another piece, right? And if I want this top part to pop out, I can just move it out like this, right? And then you can see inside the mech. Or if it hinges, like if it opens up this way, see, now it's opening up that way, right? So yeah, you can definitely do all that kind of stuff. And you can do it pretty quickly, and works out really well. And if I want to add some thickness to this, I can always go to dynamic, don't smooth subdivide, but add some thickness. Maybe not that much. And now this part has thickness, and it is a part that fits into this area, and it can open up and close like that. So hopefully that answers that question. And I don't think there are any other questions, so let me kind of continue on. Let me recombine this into one piece. There we go. All right, and then we still have this left over from before. So this is kind of the inside. So if I were to show the inside of the mech, I would do this, and then I'd add some thickness to this part as well. And you know, sometimes some customers want me to show the inside parts of something, and I can. So now this has a little bit of thickness. I don't want smoothness though, just thickness. There it is. So now this is basically the inside part of the mech, and I can go in and put in all the different details and stuff that I want in here. So yeah, that's how I would do that part. All right, so we have about 10 minutes left, and I'd like to take those 10 minutes to answer any last questions you have until we adjourn, and we will go. I think I am on again, not next Friday, but the Friday after, so you guys can connect up with me then. Again, all these are recorded, so you can watch them again later. If you have any questions on any of the older episodes, you can always ask. And if you want to, you know, if you want to be able to ask the questions real time, then tune in at the time that I have these on. All right, so next time, what we're going to do is we're going to refine this a little bit further. let's see, do I have the one that has all the different pieces? Nope, these are the pilots. I think it's this one right here. So yeah, next time we're going to go and refine all these pieces and do some more of the same kind of paneling and work that I did this time. And when I am done with that, we'll go ahead and start adding the tertiary forms, the kind of the details, the cut lines, and all that good stuff. And then when we're done with all that, we'll paint it and then render it in a setting. So let's see, I've got a couple of questions here. Okay, in my pipeline, when do I use Dynamesh? Well, it depends. Like if, you know, if I have a piece where I need to, you know, carve in some detail into it, and I don't want to subdivide it, I can Dynamesh it then. But I don't usually Dynamesh when I'm using this workflow, but when I'm using the other workflow that I talked about, and here I'll just kind of, I've got some time, I might as well just play for a bit. When I am using this method of sculpting, and here I'll just start with a cube, like so, right? And let's say I'm just using this cube to start with, and then I just want to create a quick shape out of it. Let's make sure symmetry's on, right, like this and like that. And let's say I'm doing a chest of a robot, you know, like so, and right, so that's kind of a good base to start from, so to speak. And let's squish this down to there, and also turn symmetry off for this. All right, so let's say I'm going to sculpt on this, so I will divide it to this. And here right now I'm just using dynamic subdiv, and I'm at a point where I want to start kind of carving into this and sculpting on it. So usually my workflow, if I'm working that way, is to go to, I'll get the, let's say clay tubes on, and I'll turn this on, which is Sculptress Pro mode. And let me activate symmetry, turn polyframe off, and then I'm starting to just sculpt on this, you know, just to kind of get something more organic, right? So let's say I'm going to have a kind of a hole here where the arms go, right? So I'm just basically working on this like so. And here, I'm going to go ahead and turn dynamic subdiv off because it's slowing me down, right? And I'm just basically just going in here. Let's say I want a hole here, but then this arm comes here. So this is kind of starting out a little bit more organic, and then I'll maybe make it hard surface later, and maybe he's got this part right here, and maybe these are kind of like some scapula parts, and maybe he's got a bit of a rib cage, like so. By the way, a lot of the stuff that I show is hard surface, but I do organic sculpting as well. All right, so now if I look at the geometry, you can see it's all over the place, right? So here it's kind of big, kind of chunky pieces, but here it's kind of small, you know, pieces of Sculptress Pro. And now would be a good time to Dynamesh it. So this is where I just basically go in and say Dynamesh this. Maybe a little bit more detail than that. So let's say, let's go for 512. Right, so now I basically have this as a Dynameshed model, and then I can just continue to add more to it. Right, so this is kind of my Dynamesh workflow like this. I use Sculptress Pro and Dynamesh to get these types of results. And you know, and then I can kind of do this type of work. And now again, if I go to polyframe, you can see that it's got, you know, a decent kind of evenly divided topology here, but I'm getting all sorts of weird triangles and whatnot here. So again, I just Dynamesh it and continue to work. And I think I probably need a little bit more resolution in my Dynamesh here. Let's go to 1024 and go back here and re-Dynamesh it. So that kind of gives me a little bit more detail. And then I just go over here and start kind of continuing on. And let's say, you know, make a hole here for the head, like so. Maybe add a bit of a scapula. right? And then if I want to carve in some details, I'll just go to Damien Standard and start refining these. Like, let's say there's a cut line over here. So since I'm in Sculptris Pro mode, that just goes right in. And again, if I go to see my polyframe here, you can see that a lot of this is kind of weird geometry, and then I just Dynamesh and get it back to being even. So my Dynamesh, I think levels are really low. Let me bump this up a little bit more. Dynamesh 512. I want to turn blur off. Let's undo that. And I also want to so blur off. And I want to turn project on. Blur comes back. Like, it turned off, it comes back. I don't know why. But I can turn project on and maybe go to 1024 here. And let's see what that gives us. So that gives me, exactly what I want, which is this size of polygons. And I can continue to sculpt. And then I can just refine these edges to be sharper with the Damien Standard brush and whatnot. So maybe there's like a divot here and whatnot. And I like that. I re-Dynamesh. And Dynamesh just gives me evenly distributed polygons that I can just continue to go in and refine and work on. Right, so Rizwanmation is asking me what I'm sculpting again, and I think I answered it. So go back and watch the video again and get to the part where I tell you what I'm sculpting, which is a mech. And if you don't know what a mech is, Google it. All right. Yeah, it could be my scales off. I can always unify. That's a good point. Yep. Here we go. And then if I Dynamesh this way, it's going to take longer. You are right. My scale was kind of a little bit off. So 1024 is going to take a while to Dynamesh here. So maybe if I see my, see now it's created all these little polygons, which I don't really want. So now I can actually bring this down to 256 maybe. And let's do it that way, and then it will maybe, yeah, see now it's still giving me good detail, but it's not as it's not taking as much time. And I can just continue to make sure this is still unified, and then I can just continue to add more details on here with Damien Standard. So let's say I've got a panel like this. Right, maybe there's a notch in here like that. Right, and this is more freeform, and I like to sculpt this way too. Sometimes I just completely, and I might do a part of the mech that I'm doing right now this way. And then if I want this to be more hard surfacey, I just go to H polish and polish it up. And get this to be like so. Okay, so now you can see that this is looking a little bit more hard surfacey, a little cooler. And at any point in time, I can always go tear this piece off and then have it be its own panel using panel loops or 100 different ways, maybe not 100, but a lot of different ways to kind of get the look I'm going for. Just go back to Damien Standard, do this to this part. Maybe this is some sort of a buckle or some sort of a piece that goes in this way. Okay, so you can see here that I went from something really rough, maybe a cube or a sphere or something like that, and then, I just kind of made something more detailed, like so. The only thing I don't get with this method is I can't go up and down in subdivision levels, so I'm just basically purely sculpting at this point, and then re-Dynamesh it. And then, I'm always getting, when I re-Dynamesh it, I'm always getting evenly divided geometry, so I can continue to work on it this way as I go on. So maybe this is going to be some sort of a, vertebrae or something like that over here. All right, so how are we doing on time? We're about at 9 o'clock, so we are at time. Any last questions before we end this stream? By the way, another really cool thing to do is to use trim hole, right? And that's if you want to do something like this. You get this effect, and then re-Dynamesh it. And then maybe put in a screw hole over here, maybe a little smaller, like that, and then maybe a smaller one than that inside, like so. And again, these are not really kind of, you know, CAD level screw holes or anything like that, but, you know, I mean, if you're going to look at the thing from this distance, it works just fine. All right, so do you prefer Dynamesh and DAM standard divisions for it? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, I don't think you know, again, it depends on how I'm feeling, I guess, or it depends on the subject matter. I mean, some mechs tend to be more really planar, like the ones in Metal Gear Solid are more planar. So if I'm doing a mech like that, I'll do the Z-modeler method. But if I'm working on something that, let's say, is more organic looking, then I can just use this method. I know how to do both of them. I'm good as good in either way. So it just depends on the subject matter, I guess my mood, how much time I have. That always factors things in because I kind of have to, at the beginning of the project, figure out how long something is going to take me and then be working that way. All right, let's redynamesh this. So you can kind of see that here from this kind of blobby thing, I'm getting some really nice, clean hard surface shapes just right out of, you know, just using these kind of few methods of work. And if you like this way of working and you want to continue on that, a good person to watch his tutorials on, I guess I'll do this last, is that there are, let me just go to my browser. So if you go to the Gnomon workshop, there are a lot of tutorials. And I have a really long one on doing mechs. So I basically, in this one, I do this mech. Let me turn the audio off for this. So this is basically a full-on tutorial that goes from the beginning to the end of me creating a mech and rendering it 100% from the beginning, from start to finish. So I think this is just my intro, but I actually start doing the initial sculpting in medium like this, which I like to work in VR as well. That's a whole other workflow. And then I bring it into ZBrush and start kind of connecting it together like so. And you can kind of see how I do that. Retopoing here in Maya. This was before ZBrush had that extrude edge. And now I can do it all in ZBrush. And then getting all these parts, doing some kit bashing and whatnot. And then loading this whole thing into Substance Painter and painting it. You'll see some of that detail then. Here's the articulation of how the legs move. Here's the gun design. And so here it is, all UV'd, all good to go. And then here I am painting it in Substance Painter and adding substance materials to it. And then I load it all into Keyshot and render it. Excuse me. So here it is being rendered in Keyshot and get some really cool realistic looks of it. So, you know, you can watch this if you want to kind of get a more detailed version of what I'm doing, because I might skip some steps in the stream. But if you want to watch a whole thing from beginning to end, this is at Gnomon Workshop. You can look for me by instructor under IL. There I am. I've got 2 videos with them. But the reason why I went down this entire, let me do this one more time. Right, so I've got 2 videos on here. And if you like this other method that I was working with, which is this method right here, I highly recommend you watch Furio Tedeschi's video. So I think it should be under T. And where is he? Tedeschi. Here he is. So you can see here he does this mech right here, right? And this is more along the lines of what I was doing before. Right, so I highly recommend that if you are interested in a mech design that is more or less kind of, let me go back here, more or less kind of this look, then you can, then I recommend you watch Furio's video, right? So you can get something more like this. And he does kit bash some parts in here, but most of it he basically just starts from a sphere and makes these shapes. So that's another video that I highly recommend. I've learned a lot from watching this. And again, you know, I highly recommend that you develop your own technique and don't kind of just use mine or Furio's or anybody else's, but create a hybrid version of what you're working on, and then you know, come up with your way of doing things, and maybe you can introduce some new ways of doing certain things and be part of the community that way as well. All right, so I think I had a couple of other things. Happy Chinese New Year to you too, Avi. Yep, thank you very much. And good. So we will see everybody in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching and happy ZBrushing.